In this tutorial, I'll show you how the events of the UAS 6 Stage 2 or 3 procedure will commence. I'll show you the different stages or the different courses that are involved in this, and I'll give you a few tips on what to look for through this tutorial. I won't be flying through everything exactly as the contestants are going to be, but I will explain kind of what to look for along the way. So first of all contestants will have to take off and land in the same area. So that will be some sort of landing pad, as shown here. The beginning and the end of the test, that's how it denotes when you start. You take off, and land is when it ends. Most tests are 10-minute tests, except for the endurance test, which are the length of the battery, or the life of the battery, I should say. So for the first test, first and second test actually, we are using the NIST buckets to score how many of the concentric rings that they will see during their flight. So as you can see here, those are these C-shaped rings in the buckets. You'll need to see at least the second ring. In this case, the second ring is in the down position, and you'll also need to see the alphanumeric that's associated with it. In this case, it's 1A, but they won't have to call out the actual positioning. You'll just have to see that in the photo that they take. So in this case, we're going to take a photo, and then you move on to the next bucket. In the next bucket, same thing. You have to see that alphanumeric well enough that it will show up in the picture. Take that picture and move on. For the first test, they don't actually have to take pictures. You'll just need to be able to see the buckets itself. They don't have to see that second ring. They just need to have some sort of partial visibility into the bucket, showing a similar procedure that I'm showing you here. They'll have to do each bucket stand one at a time. They can't just fly from one to the next. And they'll need to do all 5 buckets before moving on to the next stand. In this case, I'll show you kind of what's acceptable and what's not. Of course, this is more than acceptable. I could actually see the third one, but we're not scoring extra for that. They just need to be able to see that second one. So as I go up, it kind of starts disappearing. And I can't really tell what that one is right now. Is it a 1? Is it a 2? I could see the second ring just fine, but they need to also see that number as well that's in there, alphanumeric, that might be in there. Again, take that picture, and they can move on to the next one. Now they could use a zoom if they need to. That's fine. We could do either way. Their bucket stand should have a combination of the white and the black buckets as shown here. In their test, they're only going to have to do 10 of the buckets, so they really only need to do 2 tests, or 2 stands, I should say, worth of pictures. But they can go ahead and do all of them if they want, especially for the second test where they have to collect pictures, which is what I'm doing here. They can go on, they can look at the second buckets. If they complete early, they can loiter around and wait till the end of the 10 minutes. They can do this because part of this test is they're collecting data while they're doing that. That's something that's not going to be scored by you, but potentially or by NIST folks. And there, that kind of gave you an idea of what we're looking for there. Again, they could fly on to the next bucket. They can also put in other stuff like we did in here. They don't have to, other markers, as long as they kind of stay in the course too. If they go way out of the course, I might say something about that. So yeah, that's basically the first and the second test. Remember, the first test, they're just checking, they're flying around just to see if they can actually fly. Um, and then the second one, they're actually collecting the pictures and the data. And again, at the end of the test, they have to fly back before the end of the 10 minutes is up, and they have to land at the pad. But I won't do that since I'm going to show you the next test. So in this next test, this is the endurance test. So in this test, we are actually using these C-shaped boards, stop-start boards, if you will. This board's actually not quite what it should look like. The textures didn't come out right here. The inside of this should actually be white, and the outside should be completely yellow. The outside being the outside. The inside's inside the C shape. So this kind of denotes where the start or the stop of, I guess you could call them laps, are. So what you're looking for is basically the inside of this C-shaped thing. If it kind of looks like this, they haven't crossed it. They can be to the side, that's fine, as long as you see that inside. Same thing there. If they're pointed up a little bit like this, and you don't quite see it, but you kind of tell it's kind of your judgment call there. I would count this. More likely, we'll probably see something similar to this, where you'll kind of see it a little bit, but not quite. And they'll be flying probably as fast as they can between the two. They might actually have a white line too on the where that backboard is to help determine where that is, but that isn't necessary either, though. But hopefully they'll give that to you. I'll give you a quick demo of what this might look like. So in one of the endurance tests, they have to fly laps between these two. So the idea is they come down here, fly back, and basically they do this as many times as they can in one battery. And they could do exactly what I'm doing, as kind of overshooting it a little bit, doing like a hard yaw maneuver. As long as you can see that inside, that's fine. They're actually allowed to set up more than one of these backboards, I guess you could call them, or start-stop boards. So if they had two of them right here, they kind of help you see, they can do that as well. And again, for faster drones, they may do something like this just so they don't have to really take their hands off the control, or off the yaw or the roll, just however they kind of want to do it. One thing to look out for is, of course, yeah, like I said, you want to make sure they're fully crossed while doing that. I expect for a 10-minute period, a fast drone might be able to do this 30 times. A racing drone might be able to do it faster if we have a pilot with good skills. They're supposed to be collecting data at the same time as well, and that data sensor will actually be at this end. And they kind of keep going back and forth. The other endurance test actually has them flying this same course. Basically, they'll fly all the way to the end here, and they'll just sit. They'll loiter until the battery gets to 25%, and then they have to go back and land. Same thing for doing laps, 25% battery, they have to go back. Or I think it's actually 20%. Sorry about that. It's actually 20% battery life left, and they can then go back. For this fourth test, I know there's a big 5 there, but this is the fourth. Same thing as the lap test. They'll take off from a location like here, except this time they have to actually avoid an obstacle. To get full points in this test, they actually have to do this in an automated fashion or use some sort of autonomy. It could be pre-planned, but they have to be able to avoid that object no matter what. If they decide to do it manually, like I'm about to do, they'll get half the points total for the test. Just like with endurance, they have to fly between these two, but they actually only do this in 10 minutes. So the idea is how many laps can they get between these in 10 minutes. They could kind of go around these however they want. They could go up and over like I'm doing, or they could go around. And again, however, as long as you could see the backboard, determine that it's fully crossed, that's fine. They could go through it just like I did earlier, or they could go around it like this. But again, we're looking for full autonomy here. So the idea is they're not touching the sticks at all. You'll be able to see that in their video where they're showing the pilot using the controls. That's how you'll verify whether or not they're doing this autonomously or not. And hopefully they'll reflect that correctly in their score. Again, 10 minutes on this test. For the final test, it's also a fully autonomous test. And this one, it's more of an open field. It's another 10-minute test. So in this open field, they'll be looking for these objects. You can kind of see them scattered out along here. I'll go up a little bit more so you can see them. There's 10 of those. And they have to seek each of those out autonomously within 10 minutes. They have to, chances are there'll be buckets in their test. We said that they could use the buckets with the concentric rings. While they're doing this, they actually have to take the picture. So just the same as the first, or the second test, I should say. You go in here, and they would take a picture of this, and you'd be able to want to see that second ring. In this case, our apparatus is a little bit different. This isn't what you'll see. You'll actually see the bucket with the concentric C. I also said that they can use this concentric C by itself, so it doesn't have to necessarily be in the bucket. And again, should be autonomous. They could get half points if they fly it manually, like I'm doing. Go around each one, take that photo. They should have 10 of them on this. And again, we didn't specify that they had to place it under a tree, but this is something you may actually see in stage 3. For the rest of the course, we do have a vehicle which actually has one of the sensors in it. Again, you're not evaluating the sensor part of it. There may be an apparatus close to it that they'll have to take a picture of. The one on the far end, this is actually supposed to be vertically mounted, but you kind of get the idea here is they have to take a picture of it either vertically mounting or whatever they may want to place it. And again, they can pre-plan flights for this one in stage 2, but that might be a little bit harder in stage 3 since they don't really know where each of these are going to be placed, and there might be a lot more of them as well. So that basically wraps it up. Again, should see 10 pictures from this. From the buckets, you'll also see 10 pictures. It's ran twice. The first time, again, they're going through, they're just looking at the buckets. They should just see 10 buckets in the video. They don't have to take pictures for the first one. For the second one, though, they do have to take pictures. For that second test, or for the endurance test, or the third test, it's doing laps and also a hover test. for duration of a battery. In that fourth test, you could see kind of the same thing, except they're going around an object. And it's supposed to be fully autonomous or some sort of pre-planned flight autonomy or some sort of automatic function so that they're not actually flying it, the computer is. And that basically wraps it up. If you have any questions, let us know, and have a good day.